What is the scariest thing your wife did while she was pregnant? I thought I was ready for fatherhood. For the sleepless nights, the diaper changes, the million new responsibilities that come with having a baby. But I was utterly unprepared for my beloved wife, my rational, judicious partner, to transform into a completely different, utterly unpredictable person. Today, I want to tell you about the most insane, the most unbelievable thing she did while she was pregnant. And believe me, this is not just she craved pickles at 3 in the morning. This was the sand delirium. We had been together for 8 years, 3 of them married. My wife, let's call her Sarah, was the epitome of logic and order. She's a corporate lawyer. Her life is strict deadlines, perfect contracts, and zero improvisation. She even had a schedule for relaxation. We prided ourselves on being that calm, well-adjusted couple that solved problems with conversation, not shouting. Our house was always minimalist, immaculate, and every object knew its designated place. If you had told me that in 6 months there would be a pile of sand in our living room, I would have called for immediate medical attention for you. When we found out about the pregnancy, we were both over the moon. It was planned, calculated, and neatly slotted into our 5-year goals. Sarah immediately began reading medical journals, drawing up nutrition charts, and speaking exclusively in terms of trimesters and folic acid. The first 3 months passed relatively smoothly. If you don't count the usual nausea and fatigue, then, around the 4th month, something in her chemical balance shifted, and it began. The first signs were, as I said, amusing. She became obsessed with the smell of green apples, not just liking them, but literally living by them. She bought them by the kilo, placed vases of apples all over the house, and even slept with a sliced apple on her nightstand. She demanded I use apple-scented shampoo and apple air fresheners. One time she got furious because I ruined the car's scent by drinking coffee in it. I wrote it off as hormones, but she declared that the baby's brain requires ideal aromatherapy. Okay, I thought. It's cute, if a little odd. Then came the unusual food cravings, and they were aggressive. One night she woke me up demanding a sandwich made with peanut butter, pickled gherkins, and sharp cheddar cheese. I stared at the unholy concoction of sour, sweet, and salty and thought she was joking. But no, she ate it with such transcendental pleasure that I almost believed it tasted good. Almost. The situation escalated when we went to dinner at our friend's house, Lisa and Mark. Lisa had been pregnant the year before, and I was hoping for some solidarity. When Sarah saw Lisa using regular cooking oil, she caused a scene. Why are you using that? You know that avocado oil is 2% better for fetal development. You're putting your baby at risk. She snatched the spatula from Lisa, opened her purse, pulled out her own avocado oil, and started cooking herself. I nearly melted into the floor from embarrassment. Mark just shrugged and muttered to me, "Dude, this is hell." And it's only the beginning. But the scariest part began around the 7th month. The quirks escalated into full-blown madness, known as nesting. She suddenly became obsessed with total, sterile cleanliness. At first I was happy, but it quickly became a problem. She started seeing dirt where there was none. At first it was almost funny. She could spend hours scrubbing the same tile in the bathroom. Then it became terrifying. One night, I woke up to a strange scraping noise. I went downstairs and found Sarah in the kitchen. It was 3 in the morning. She was standing on a stool, rag in hand, washing the ceiling. The entire ceiling above the kitchen table, moving in small, methodical circles. I asked, "Sarah, what are you doing?" "You're going to fall!" She turned to me, her eyes wide and frantic, and said, "Can't you see it? There's a spider web." A giant, black, filthy spider web that's about to fall on our dinner and infect the baby. Of course, I saw nothing. The ceiling was perfectly clean, freshly painted. But I didn't argue. I just stood silently beside her, spotting her, until she finished her nocturnal vigil. This became a daily ritual. She washed walls, the inside of windows, and polished doorknobs to a mirror sheen because they have germs that want to hurt our baby. She even demanded that I strip off my clothes immediately after working in the garage, enter the house wrapped in a towel, and go straight to the shower so as not to bring the pollen of evil into the house. I felt like a pariah. I began to worry seriously. I contacted our doctor, and he confirmed it was nesting, a pregnancy instinct. but that in some women it manifests with a strong OCD component. He advised me to simply endure it until she gives birth. Endure. Easier said than done. And now for the scariest, most insane thing. The ultimate display of her hormonal madness. It happened in the 8th month. I returned home from work. Usually Sarah was waiting for me, we'd eat dinner, and she'd tell me about her successes in sterilizing the house. But the house was quiet. Suspiciously quiet. I found her in the living room. She was sitting on the floor, and in front of her, a mountain of sand. Yes, the most ordinary gray damp sand, like from a playground. She was wearing our most expensive silk pajamas and was meticulously sorting the sand into small piles, using an ice cream spoon. "Sarah, what is going on? Where did this sand come from?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even, though my heart was pounding in my stomach. She looked up at me, her eyes full of a strange, childlike joy. "I'm building a home for our baby. The walls must be strong. See, this will be the living room and here is the bedroom. I have to make sure the sand is perfectly clean. I sifted all of it through the fine tea strainer to get rid of all the germs and little pebbles. My wife, a successful lawyer, who orders takeout to avoid messing up the kitchen, was now sitting in our pristine living room on our Persian rug sifting dirty outdoor sand. I was in shock. I didn't know whether to cry, call an ambulance, or just run away. I simply sat down next to her. Where did you get so much sand?" She answered proudly. "I went to that new park. It's not very popular, and the sand there was fresh. I took 3 buckets. I couldn't wait for you to come home to start building." She had brought 3 full buckets of sand from a public playground, smuggled them through the front door past my sanitary checkpoints, and begun building a sandcastle in the center of our living room, right on the carpet that cost my salary. I was powerless to stop her. Any attempt to intervene would result in tears and shouts. "You don't want our baby to have a home? You don't love him?" Of course, I didn't want to cause her any more stress. I simply surrendered. For the next 2 weeks, our living room was occupied. Sarah finished construction on her sand fortress. She made up entire narratives. "This will be the throne room for when he is king." The sand pile grew to almost a meter in height. The problem escalated when Sarah's mother came over. When she saw this monument to madness, she just sat on the sofa and silently burst into tears. "What has this man done to you?" "I told you he was strange." I had to come up with the most ridiculous excuses. At work, I told colleagues we were doing major renovations and couldn't have visitors. Every time neighbors knocked, I pretended I wasn't home, or opened the door just a crack so they couldn't see the sandy horror. I couldn't bring myself to remove the sand until Sarah gave birth. I feared that touching her fortress would destroy her emotional state. I just resigned myself to the fact that our house was temporarily a beach resort. I bought a heavy-duty industrial vacuum cleaner in preparation for the coming battle. Finally, the day came. Our son was born. Everything went perfectly. Happiness, relief, and the hormones began to recede. We returned home 3 days later. Sarah, holding the infant, walked into the living room. She looked at the mountain of sand in the center of the room. Then she looked at me. Then back at the sand. She was silent for a long time. And then, with a completely composed expression, she asked, "Darling, what the hell is that? Why is there a pile of sand in our living room?" She remembered nothing of it. I knew then that the madness was complete, but temporary. I simply smiled and said, "It was yours. You were building a home for our baby. You sifted it to make sure it was clean." She laughed long and genuinely. It was the same old rational laugh. And then she asked me to help her clean it all up. The cleanup took us 3 days, and I still find grains of sand in the most unexpected places, even years later. Now, every time our little one plays in the sandbox, I remember that insane period. And I realize that the love for a child makes us, prospective parents, do very strange and sometimes very destructive things. But you know what? I would go through it all again, just to see her happy yet utterly insane face, sitting on the floor, building her sand fortress for our future. It was the strangest display of love I have ever witnessed. What is the strangest or even scariest thing your wife did while pregnant? Or maybe you did something crazy yourself. Share your stories in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable true stories. See you next time.